Hello, and welcome to the Biomass Magazine podcast. I am your host, Anna Simet, and today I'm here with an industry colleague and friend, Scott Bax of Peak Renewables. I've known Bax for many years, and recently we even got the chance to catch up in person in Miami at the Exporting Pellets Conference. And now today, Scott, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Anna. I'm really excited to be here.
So maybe let's start by having you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your background.
All right. Starting with the tough questions first, I see. A little bit about me. Early on in my life, I had the opportunity to work in the forest products industry. And it was during those early experiences that it became clear that I wanted to channel my passion for trees into a career. That in turn led me to the University of Alberta here in Canada to pursue both a master's in business administration as well as a master's in forestry. And really, honestly, from that point forward, I focused on trying to work in as many aspects of the forest products industry as possible. So over the next 2 decades, I worked in areas from reforestation and forest management to harvesting, to continuous improvement consulting in the forest products industry, to sawmills and value-added forest products, and then finally to wood pellets. And those opportunities have had me work and live both across Canada and the United States, and I'm incredibly grateful for them.
Well, you're at Peak Renewables now, so maybe just kind of give our listeners a bit of a high-level rundown of what your company is all about.
Yeah. So, Peak Renewables is, at its heart and soul, it's fundamentally a renewables company that's focused on partnering with, other companies and organizations and indigenous groups to make sustainable, renewable products that reduce the carbon footprint of today by utilizing, marginalized trees, forest and mill residuals, as well as other biomass that would typically go to waste. Mm-hmm. Today we're working on various projects, including the industrial wood pellets, black pellets, biocoal, biochemicals, and as well as carbon sequestration and hydrogen. So we're spanning sort of a very, very broad a broad sphere of potential products with a number of projects in the queue. I've been very fortunate. We have a chairman and an individual that's an exceptionally visionary leader by the name of Brian Fair. And, Brian spent many decades, effectively revolutionizing the sawmill industry with his company, the Bid Group. He sold that a number of years ago. And in that, transition, he started a new series of companies, with a vision to make a difference, with a vision to reinvest in communities and partner with First Nations and like-minded organizations, all to try to make the world a better place. And that vision inspired me and brought me to Peak, and it's really an exciting time to grow an organization, and I can get into some of the details a little bit later on.
Right, thank you. So interesting. So Scott, you've been in the wood pellet business for a decade. What are a couple of your key takeaways for someone considering starting a new company?
That's a great question. Really, I'd have to say there's a couple key takeaways. One is you don't know what you don't know. Wood pellet production by many standards is an exceptionally young industry, truly, decades younger than the internet, if you think about it like that. Collectively, we're still evolving as that industry. I would say industry experts are rare, and, there's been many good companies that have failed. So, engage and partner, with organizations, people in ways that you can ultimately reduce your risk. I think, another takeaway I would say is, you know what you don't know. So, there is this understanding, where you're consciously know you're weak, and again, find, people and organizations to complement your strengths, to leverage, their and to reduce that collective unknown. Third one I would say is, the wood products industry has taught us that we need to be resilient. We don't get great on day one or week one or month one. It takes time to be great. It takes resiliency, and that constant journey of surrounding yourselves with great people. And I really do mean, people who are truly good, in their hearts, as well as, exceptional at what they do. And then I think last but not least, is owning safety. Our entire industry depends on a strong supply chain, one that can deliver energy safely. And the entire industry is learning. So, share safety, participate in your pellet association, find like-minded organizations to learn from and grow and improve from.
Absolutely. Great answers. So this industry is quickly growing. Where do you see the wood pellet business going in the next decade?
I am so excited about the future of the wood pellet industry. Having been in it for, I'll call it, pretty close to the first decade of it, it just has so much potential. And I think as society, as people, and as industry, we're only learning what that potential is. But I'm going to start with the most basic premise of the forest products industry, is and has always been that the highest value fiber must go to the highest value uses. Historically, these were, traditional forest products companies, pulp and paper, dimension lumber, and other solid wood products. I see that, that's slowly shifting. Today, the world sees the value of wood residue, in its role in replacing energy derived from fossil fuels. We know that, burning biomass, emits carbon. That's part of the Earth's natural biogenic carbon cycle. And in contrast, fossil fuels increase the total amount of carbon in the atmosphere. We get that, and we understand that forests must be sustainably managed and certified to ensure that that we're doing our part. But if you look at the next decade, I see society valuing fiber for its carbon harnessing superpowers. People talk today of direct air capture, the concept of pulling carbon out of the air. Well, trees have evolved over 250 million years and are fundamentally the most efficient natural air capture tool. They're sequestering carbon out of the air, every day. So the opportunity wood pellets can play in, whether it be advanced bio oils, for pharmaceuticals or other portions of the industry, to decarbonizing other industries, to actually, helping us in our journey to slow climate change by reducing atmospheric CO2, is, I think, all part of wood pellets' bright future.
Absolutely. So, Scott, you're 9 months into your new role at Peak. What's transpired in that time, and what's ahead in the coming, couple years?
It's been an amazing privilege to take on the role of CEO at Peak Renewables, and as a small, young, growing organization, we're accomplishing, great things. It's, as you said, I've been here for 9 months, and fortunate that, Peak has an amazing team of, dedicated individuals that have been, moving projects forward for a number of years. I'm really excited about the fact that in September of this year, we announced the construction of our first wood pellet plant, a 150,000 ton per year facility using sawmill residuals in Dothan, Alabama. We have an amazing partner with Rex Lumber, and we're working together with a number of other organizations to realize, our vision of a decarbonized future. For that facility, production will start sometime in Q3 of 2023, and we're excited to be able to, showcase that facility to the world and join the ranks of pellet producers. That said, we're close to announcing the construction of our second wood pellet plant in the southern U.S. Peak has a small ownership portion in a sawmill, and we will be constructing a pellet facility adjacent to that sawmill, utilizing 100% of its residuals, being the chips, sawdust, and shavings and bark from that facility. We expect that plant to produce around 250,000 tons a year, and that production should come online at some point later in 2024. After that project, we have plans for a couple additional facilities in the U.S. South and are currently in discussions with partners about realizing those opportunities. So, we see the opportunity in the next 4 years for Peak to have, in excess of 1 million tons of pellet production with additional facilities in our queue. But I guess there's a couple other things I'd like to talk about. One is, Peak continues to develop its Fort Nelson project in conjunction with Fort Nelson First Nation. That's a pellet project that we have been working alongside the Fort Nelson First Nation to develop. We still have some more work to do to make that project a reality. And, over the last 9 months, we made some really, really great progress on de-risking that project and, getting it closer to the point where it will become a reality. Early on, I talked about, Peak's role in renewables. Peak is also developing an orientated strand board, or OSB, project in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. That's a project that, I personally and Peak were incredibly excited about. We have 12 Indigenous nations as direct ownership partners in that project. Just a phenomenal number, and they're, such great nations. And we've got a number of other nations participating in fiber. We have long-term agreements. We have the fiber locked up. We're in the final stages of the environmental approval process. And here in Q4, we're working through our final equity and financing raise. So I expect that OSB facility to be operational late in 2024. And then 2 other items in terms of, what else is ahead. We're very active in exploring the role of, I'll call it, advanced products such as, black pellets and biocoal and biochar as opportunities to further decarbonize different industries. Those I'd say are all in their infancy, and there's something that we follow with immense interest and stay engaged with a number of industry partners, consumers on them, and we look forward to finding where our niche can be in those markets. And then finally, I talked early on about Peak's visionary leader Brian Fair. Well, I want to just tell you a little bit about really a truly visionary company Peak is a 50-50 joint venture with, and it's a company called Hydrogen Naturally. We partnered with Ian McGregor from Calgary, Alberta, and his company Northwest Capital, and Ian and his team sort of are, in many ways, in a different industry, equally visionary, and have backed up those visions with the completion of some really amazing projects, including, sort of world-leading experience in carbon capture and storage. So, at Hydrogen Naturally, we like to say we view fiber differently. We recognize the value of fiber not only for its energy potential, but for its carbon sequestration superpowers. Our project plan is to fundamentally gasify wood pellets and sequester the carbon and produce a carbon negative energy source in the form of hydrogen. Ian and his team, they've successfully executed the world's largest blue hydrogen plant. They've been involved in some of the larger carbon capture and storage operations in the world, and we really see the opportunity to marry Peak's vision on fiber and pellets with with Northwest Capital's vision of hydrogen production and carbon sequestration, and we see that that being part of the transformation of the wood pellet industry.
So interesting. You guys, Peak has a lot going on, a lot of exciting things. Sounds like a great company. Before we wrap things up, Scott, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
And I know I just want to, thank you for the time. It's it's great to be able to talk about not only where the industry has been, but also look forward to see where it's going. Appreciated the time together in Miami. It was great to be there and just to feel the energy around the industry, and we have challenges and we have opportunities, and we're excited about moving forward and addressing those opportunities. So thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a pleasure as always. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks again, Scott, for taking the time today to chat with me and tell our listeners more about Peak Renewables.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
You too. And to our listeners, thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Until next time.